Bradford had an interesting FSD experience. So this happened and I didn't have my dashcam USB stick in. The car went too far past the line into a roundabout and it rolled back 1 whole foot, so about this much. It was not a heartbreaking sensation of going backwards, it went backwards. Do you remember that drama with Sam Altman when he was fired as the OpenAI CEO and then hired back very quickly? Well, new details are coming out, and Elon Musk says it's wild. Microsoft, which sort of owns OpenAI at this point, the CEO of Microsoft said this to the board members: if OpenAI disappeared tomorrow, we have all the IP rights and all the capability, we have the people, we have the compute, we have the data, we have everything. We are below them, above them, around them. Remember that OpenAI is supposed to be a non-profit company, and Microsoft obviously is a for-profit corporation. As Elon Musk's OpenAI lawsuit continues, we will probably uncover many details about what actually went down, and I assume it's not going to be pretty. 0 disengagements for the last 3 days and 14 trips. We are seeing things like this from people that I have never really seen or never really followed before. Now, he says that this particular station was a bit uncomfortable, but still, there was no disengagement here. Xiaomi CEO just said that Tesla has the unique advantage of being able to raise the prices of its electric vehicles, a move that other companies cannot pull off because they're risking huge losses. Maybe what he meant was that if other companies increased prices, the number of vehicles sold would be reduced substantially, but not in the case of Tesla, and Tesla also is profitable. The current EV market is so competitive that only Tesla dares to raise prices, he said. So we are basically seeing here the competition capitulating to Tesla officially. As for the SU7 vehicle, that CEO believes the vehicle will be highly competitive with the Model 3. He cites better specs, solid materials, and high sourcing costs. Is it really better if it's much more expensive? Volkswagen is ready to bring autonomous driving to large-scale production, which would be the first vehicle manufacturer to develop a level 4 autonomous driving service vehicle for large-scale production. If you guessed that it has 6.9 LiDAR units, you would be wrong because it has 9, 5 radar units, and 13 cameras. It will only be capable of operating in a defined area, so it's not a threat to Tesla.
Look at this. Okay, hold on. So even though our navigation says it needs to go forward past this to make a U-turn, it's recognizing that there's a lane here it had no idea about. Still turned into the lane despite what the navigation's telling it. So this is awesome. It's never done this before in this section here.
Well, clearly FSD is getting better. Here's another no interventions drive. I believe this is 1 hour long commute without any interventions. There are too many of these now. Now, if you could just do me a favor and sell all of your Tesla stock as I buy more, I would really appreciate that.
Tesla's taking the castings further and further, as we'll see on this truck. Here, the rear seat, the structure for the rear seat is a casting. So they've taken that rear casting and now they've extended it here with a rear seat, as well as the front seat.
Yeah.
The front seat's also on castings.
On casting.
Instead of just a stamping, which is a typical roll for stamping for a seat track, they're castings. We are kind of challenged that we have to go deep into virtually every electrical system because it's not all 48 volts.
Interesting.
Some of it remained at 12 volts.
And so, because the perception out there is it's all 48.
Yeah, it was my perception. Yeah, 48, boom. You know, they swallowed the pill and did it. And it's like, well, yeah, they swallowed the pill and did it, but not everywhere.
Underside of the front suspension. I'm certain that this is some kind of an air duct or something, or maybe it's to gather mud, because this has got a great big, huge area that I could fill up with mud.
Yeah, so I mean, regarding the shield, Sandy, definitely with you, definitely an aero provision, probably also to help from stone impingement at the leading edge.
When you look at even their tow hook, similar, it's a little bit simpler than the Rivian execution, but essentially they're bolting in the side here of the vehicle. It's probably hard to see there, but there's recessed provision. So when you hit something, it'll just essentially won't even shear some of the bolts off. They just come loose and then start to move rearward, which is kind of interesting.
One open connector there for high voltage, and so This could be provisional for another package. This could be an additional form of charging, and or if you want to have something in the bed, not quite sure. That's one of the things that we're probably going to dive further into. But in several instances so far, we've seen some connectors, both high voltage, what you're seeing on the screen here, and then also low voltage, like right here, for example. This is below the rear aero shield next to the hitch. You're seeing connectors that are just plugged at the end, meaning they're unused. They're not actually going to an address within the vehicle. That electronics bay is actually cantilevered over to the rear end of the battery pack, and it's a cast aluminum piece. So to me, when I'm looking at this, one, I believe that they're probably using that electronics bay for some measure of structure, whether just the battery pack itself to better stabilize it or stiffen it, or they may be using that to stiffen the body structure as it's bonded to it, you know, or fastened to it. So that's quite a change in terms of the overarching architecture between outgoing or previous battery packs that we've seen in electronics bays relative to them. You know, again, I'm talking about that plan view dimension, right? You know, fore aft of that electronics bay. That's quite a departure for Tesla in terms of that specific area of the battery pack, and then having all of these vents hanging out the bottom side like this.
These spot welds, I just started looking at them. I can't believe how well they're done. Remember when we got the first Teslas, I about fainted. I couldn't, there was impedance, it's splash when you don't have the tips right and whatnot. These things here, they all look like little teeny dimples that, you know, were put on with a machine tool or something. They really did a big, I mean, these guys should be teaching welding classes to the rest of the planet.
You know that Sandy Monroe chooses his words carefully, and he doesn't praise Tesla unless Tesla actually really deserves it, so it means a lot coming from him.